Anderson. Douglas. Rector. Rosales.
Here.
Tinsley. Vachaspati. Harper.
Here. We have a quorum. Approval of the agenda and addenda.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion or questions about it? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public participation. Darlene? No? Oh. Oh, minutes, yeah, okay. Approval of the minutes. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm in there. Go right ahead.
There was somewhere in there where the second wasn't listed as a question mark. Do we need to know who that was? You have to go back. I don't even remember which one it was.
Well, who was the first?
There was a first, but there.
Says I was made the motion.
Who was the first?
Said I made the motion. I saw that too.
But then we don't know who did the second. Does that matter? Do we need to go back and listen to that? Or if you want to say Rector did it, or, I don't know what,
Where was it? Remember?
Says I made the motion, but I don't think I did.
Well, yeah, there's something wrong with that because you shouldn't be making motions as chair, so.
I'll bet I made the motion.
I would suggest that we defer the minutes to the next meeting.
Can we check the video?
She can.
Well, yeah, but, yeah.
So we'll curtail the approval of this until the next meeting.
Also, on item C, the first statement there, Mr. Brenner stated that the city of Champaign put in a request for a sidewalk. I would assume that should be Urbana. So if no disagreement, we'll defer the minutes till next month. Now, public participation. Darlene, nothing? No. Okay. All right, communications from the committee. Well, I'm going to turn this over to the boss man, facilities director report.
Okay.
All right, yeah. Art, excuse me, Art Bartel, we discussed at the last meeting. You guys gave approval for us to move forward and hire architect, engineer. We have done that. The document, signed document, listing the price for that is attached. Roughly it's $19,500. 17,000 in basic expenses, schematic design, design development, contingency docs, bidding permit, little construction administration, and then there's the 2,500 not to exceed for reimbursable expenses. What are those? Those basically printing costs for as many documents are needed for bidding purposes. So thought that was a very good price. We're going to actually have our first kickoff meeting tomorrow, and hopefully that MSA Engineering, as part of this team, will be out, I believe, in the next 10 days to start taking some elevations sites so that we can get their input to properly basically design the street and expansion so that we can put a sidewalk as required by the city of Urbana all along Art Bartel. I don't know whether that's going to be on the east side, west side, north, or south, depending upon which side of Art Bartel you're on. We'll put it in the best location possible. We'll try not to put it over top any utilities, which would be very smart, which particularly on the north-south section is on the east side, so it's probably going on the west side, probably going to be placed on the east side. Not sure yet on the east-west position, basically from Little Airman down to the nursing home. But that's what this study will tell us. Again, why are we doing it? Just to make sure that this significant investment in a sidewalk, which we obtained a price estimate from our county engineer will cost in the magnitude of about $300,000. So, and this is a requirement for us to file the plot revision for the nursing home property with the city of Urbana. So, any questions? Questions about
What's-
the document?
What was our timeline? Next spring, summer,
Yes.
hopefully?
I'd like to get it accomplished next spring and summer. I'd like to get it bid out. If I, had my choice, we'd bid it out sometime in December. Winter's a great time to bid out projects, whether it's concrete or construction, just because everybody's trying to line up their work for the spring and the summer. And I've generally found that the pricing comes back a little more favorable if you bid it during the winter.
Okay, we'll go on to update on downtown jail generator.
Okay, the good news is we completed it. It's up and running. Just a reminder that the 2.5 months ago, in our normal once-a-month start up and run, we found the radiator was leaking tremendously, and the alternator had an issue. This is an original unit. Actually purchased, manufactured in '78, purchased in '79, installed in early '80. So it is an old one. They no longer make the parts for it. We hired a company to manufacture a new radiator and rebuild the alternator. At that same time, when we were doing that, we found that the transfer switch, automatic transfer switch, so when the building where this switch notices that there's a drop in power, it switches over automatically to the generator and kicks the generator on. So really there's only a 2 or 3 second lag in time, which should not impact the building, particularly the corrections side, which is on the generator. So repairs are made, switchover was completed. It's working fine. The rest of the parts still are very old. And they don't make any replacement parts anymore for these things. So we'll treat it with kit and gloves and try and make it last as long as we have to.
Any questions on that? If not, we'll move on to Brookings Fire Alarm Panel.
Fire alarm panel, just to remind you, we had it wasn't really a fire alarm test. We had a young park district participant pull a pull station in the gym Pod 400 about a month and a half ago. And with the original fire alarm panel that we have here in the building for Brookings, it creates zones. It doesn't create or tell you exactly where it is, like most modern fire alarms do. So the fire marshal has requested that we change that over so that it tags basically where the sensor's at and can tell you, so you don't waste time in trying to find a particular location. In this instance, there were about a dozen different sensors on a zone that you had to go and try and find, and they're not just in one area of the building, they're in multiple areas of the building, making it very difficult. So we got pricing, and pricing was through Johnson Controls, and it's to the tune or magnitude of about $20,000 to do it right, so that we create individual sensors and with addresses so that it comes up on a new fire alarm panel the correct way, so we can get people out of here. We can inform the firemen when there is an instance of the exact location of the problem. So we've issued purchase orders, and I would hope within the next 45 days to have the new panel and sensors installed.
Any questions there? Well, we'll move on to our budgets.
Moving fast. First up is capital asset. It's in your packet. At our August meeting, several of you asked to see where we're at. So I'll walk you through that one pager that says at the top FY 2018 Capital Asset Fund. We transferred from last year's fiscal budget from the capital asset fund, $151,815 into this budget. About half of that actually was going to a project that was ongoing and coming back, which is the satellite jail asphalt project, which was finished up this past spring. And the remainder of it was leftover. We had some money that was left over. We were holding just in case we had issues or problems. Our budget, our repair and maintenance budget was exhausted by early December. So we held on a little bit of dollars, transferred it to this fiscal year. $532,000 is our normal allocation for 2018. So we had $684,000 and some change to work with. You had approved last fall the satellite jail, domestic hot water. Its total cost magnitude is $192,027. We are almost done with that project. We are waiting on the last pay application, and that's about $7,000 is all that remains. We were down to a punch list for the last 35, 40 days of about 4 different items. So that has been finalized. At least the vendor has completed everything. The pay application has been turned into GHR engineers, and I'm supposed to receive it tomorrow. So, but that'll finalize. Satellite jail asphalt project, $73,000. Downtown jail generator was basically, if you add those three, radiator, alternator, under transfer switch, plus the Aladdin electric to install the automatic transfer switch, and to install, the temporary generator that was put into place there for 45 days. So it came out to $10,233. We've notated the Brookins fire alarm panel. Talked about the last meeting also, kitchen laundry boiler that needs to be replaced. It has been ordered. That is the cost installed. And then our Art Bartel study. And I've listed on here the Elias utility isolation work that we agreed last month to try and move forward over. And then with the 2 compressors that we talked about at the satellite jail, that leaves us basically $187,000 for the remainder of this year. I don't have anything that we want to move forward with at this time. We'll use between our R&Ms, repair and maintenance budgets. If anything breaks of significance that we can't afford to, we'll come to the group and seek permission to take care of it out of this fund. So feel pretty good about that. Any questions about the budget? Yep.
Catch it if you did about the ADA Sheriff's Office.
Tammy transferred in at the beginning of the year into the capital fund, $261,000 from the ADA account last year.
The jails and the Sheriff's Office no longer required. So what does that dollar figure mean? Where is that money now?
It's in the capital fund. I have not accounted for it because it's not going to the capital fund. It was earmarked, and that's being transferred out into the FY 2019 budget for other things.
You have a question? Or go ahead, Tracy.
Last month, we were talking about the demolition in the future of the old nursing home.
Elias?
And I know this is like maybe a 5-year project, but I don't remember what the costs were on that. Where would we get that money?
It's a good question. I don't know where you're going to get that money, Teresi. Yeah. The reason this is on here, and you weren't here, so let me backtrack slightly. I talked about in the spring and fall about doing a study of Elias. They operate out about half of the building. They used to rent the entire facility, but because of a tremendous mold issue in about 100,000 square foot that they no longer rent. We've got roofs that are leaking badly. They've pulled away from the fascia. You can see gaps in the stairwell, exterior stairwell towers. So we've got a lot of water migration into the facility. Has created a heck of a mold issue. In 3 or 4 years, the building's probably coming down on its own in places, so it's not safe to be in there. But we still heat it. We still have lights in there. We still have water in there. And I would like to save a few dollars off of utilities by taking it off of the utility train, so to speak. So in order to do that, and we have to do this anyway as we prepare to take a look at dismantling or tearing down the facility. So with this study, we've found out exactly what we need to do, how we need to do it. The first part of it is actually really pulling some new fiber optics for IT. That's the biggest expense. We have a loop system around our east campus here. So if one part of it goes down, it can be fed from the other side. And unfortunately, it runs through a major section of this old facility. So we'll have to do some directional boring and relocate some and install some new fiber. So that's the first chunk of what we want to try and get accomplished over there. I don't think we'll get much past that. You know, if I had my, you know, ability to get stuff done over there, you know, I might think about disconnecting the electric and the water. That's got some other ramifications. I really need the electric and the water probably on this winter in order to be able to separate, give us a clear separation. I need to tear down about 30 or 40 feet of the old building and isolate that exterior piece, then, or that new exterior piece, so it doesn't leak into the new building. Then we could tear down or take out the utilities. Because when we do that, you're going to lose your sprinkler protection in the old building. We'll have it in the new one, but you can't sprinkler it during the winter if you take out the heat. So it's kind of a catch-22, unfortunately. So, but if we can get through with the IT solutions, there's about 3 different IT components that need to be taken care of. That'll give us a good head start. So that's what I'd like to get done with 150. And I'm hoping by running the project ourselves and just hiring the boring, and you know, we'll get an electrician on board when we need to do the hookups and hopefully be able to pull the cable ourselves. So.
Can someone refresh my memory where we are with making plans for the downtown jail? I was thinking we had it on the agenda a few months ago and then it got pulled off. Again, that other big elephant in the room.
Yeah, it is a pretty good sized elephant in the room. Well, you know, a little background. Remember, it's a 1980 building. It was built with old correction technology. From a correction standpoint, there's tremendous blind spots within the facility. It's a kind of damp, old building. It's in terms of modern correction standards, it certainly doesn't fall into those. It's a utility hog, just because of the old technology and the old equipment that are in the building. You've got ADA issues to the magnitude of about 175,000 that if we're going to stay in there, we'll have to correct. If the decision at some point is made that you no longer can stay in there and you're going to close it down, then you wouldn't have to make that investment of that 175. That would be helpful. I just think, you know, we got the nursing home kind of in front of you all and your counterparts. I think we pulled it for a couple reasons. One, to try to pull together a little bit more information for the board and for this committee. And second, yeah, we'll bring it up to you guys. You guys will make the decision, obviously, but it's a big issue that is going to have to be tackled at some point.
But we did vote at this committee like 6 or 8 months ago to move forward on a plan.
Yep. We took a vote to not spend any money on the downtown facility. It was a unanimous vote, 7-0.
Right, but we voted to start working on a plan, so I just want to make
Right.
sure we're working on a plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also Dana was, going back to Tracy on the old part of the nursing home. And I should remember to bring that 10-year plan. Was it, the demolition of it, was that in your 10-year plan? Okay, yeah. All right. Any other questions on nursing home or jail right now?
Okay. The next piece, and I apologize, I've got a large sheet, but I got bad eyes.
So do I.
So hopefully you can read yours. This is our entire budget. We do kind of well, I would call it a shadow budget, if you will. The AS 400 is not the most friendly and useful budgetary thing to work with, frankly. You know, it's an old technology. So we do pull it off and put it in a more usable format for us. So what you see is a snapshot based on August 27th of where we're at. We've got roughly about $60,000 left, and if you added up our repair and maintenance items, our various buildings, we've got about $60,000 left. We've got you know, what looks like in utilities, gas, electric, which are the two big ones. Electric bills have been taken care of through June. I don't think we've got any or many posted in July. So we used to, at least why I say June is we got 6 months on board, so I'm feeling fairly, you know, positive about where we're going to be with electric. Gas, we're about the same boat, but yet we've got 4 months to go. Gas is really weather-driven. The colder it is, the faster it gets colder, the more dollars are spent on gas. So, you know, 3 winters ago, we had a significant winter, and, you know, we used all and more of that budget. So we just have to wait and see where we're going to be. As a reminder, this year, we took a $85,000, everyone was asked to help out, so we took an $85,000 hit to our those utility line items, both gas and electric. We felt positive that we could do that with the revisions we've been able to put in place over the last 3 years, with savings, with more efficient equipment in the buildings that we've been able to do that from. So we're feeling pretty good about our utilities, our maintenance supply items. We've way overshot our budget this year. We just have been replacing more things. And added, you know, that's why you see a difference. I should have said that up front. Beginning budget is what's approved, and then with how the county does its budgeting, if we use more than that, we've got to transfer from another account. So that's why you're going to see a difference in budget as of 8/27, that second column. You'll see that there are some differences from the first column. That's where we've transferred money to. And if it's line items below that, obviously that's where we pull dollars out to try and transfer to. So in general, feel pretty good about it. Couple of notables. There's a $40,000 fee in here for that comes at the end of the year. That's why there's nothing been spent out of it. It's a one-timer. We don't control it. It's just what it is, but that's a watershed fee. Juror parking, we pay for juror parking. We don't control it, but we pay for it. So depending upon the number of jurors are needed on a given year, and that does fluctuate, we pay for parking to the city of Urbana. We also pay for employee parking for about 60 people from the courthouse. We rent spaces, it's under employee parking. We rent spaces at Save-A-Lot, and have a contract with, lease contract with them. Anybody see anything there they have, I'm sorry?
With the city?
No, Save a Lot, it's, so right behind the Civic Center, Urbana Civic Center, there's a liquor store, grocery store, and a nice parking lot, and it's relatively close proximity. The folks who park there think it's too far, and it's uphill coming to work and downhill going back to the car, so, and it's cold out in the winter, so I hear. Anybody have any questions?
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how much do we save going with the Save a Lot over Urbana parking, if you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I can pull, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can pull that and provide it to you. But it's cheaper than going with the city of Urbana.
And just one more sort of thing. One thing that would just make this easier for me to read, and I know this is my first time here, but would be just to have a column that shows the difference between the beginning budget and the budget as of today, or as of last week. If that's possible to do. I know you're working with old equipment and stuff, but thanks.
Okay, that's kind of what the third column is. It's where we're at, what we spent to date.
Right, but just a difference between what was expected to, the expected need and the current need, I guess. Yeah. Just to see
It's
what-
hard to see on your phone, I
Yeah,
apologize.
it is.
Not working?
I think wow, I've never seen that, green and red. Thank you. I think I understand what you're asking for. I'm just wondering whether or not we want to put this department through the exercise of providing it, although we don't see this document often throughout the year, but to track this as often as you do every time there's an update. While I understand that some things may have a regular billing cycle, say monthly, and you're paying something and it's showing us that it's being spent, and you know, this is what we expected, here's what we're actually doing, and it gives us some indication whether or not you're currently under your budget. But at the same time, I recognize that many of these things are put off until they're needed.
Yes.
So while you may be budgeted for it, it may not be expected to occur until September, for example, or say the purchase of the salt, you know, in Jeff Blue's office. But I'm just saying there are things that are put off until later. So all year I'll be seeing that, you know, I don't know, how do you put that down in January? Well, we expected to spend 30,000, we've not spent anything. It's zero, and it's currently zero. We expected to spend nothing, we've spent nothing, but we did budget it. So I don't know, I'm just saying, not that it's not a bad, or not a good idea, it's just, I think I'm always careful not to put more work on people to know information that maybe really I don't need to know unless he feels it's important enough to draw it out during these meetings, or we're being more specific than, you know, because I look at these items, waste disposal, you know, I don't know what that means. I don't know what he's expecting, yada, yada, and it's like, wow.
No, I mean, I agree. I just, you know, you mentioned that you were taking money out of some accounts and putting them into other accounts, and I was just curious, you know, which of those accounts those were. You know, I don't, you know that it's super important. I wouldn't prioritize it particularly highly, but if it's easy to do, it might be informative to to you and to us.
Let me take a whack at it and
Okay,
see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, don't do it if it takes more than 5 minutes. But
You know, some of our expenses, you know, the utilities, you know, we track, you know, so we can go back and we can see last year how much was spent each month, how much for the total for the year. You know, we try and keep in mind, take a few control points of what kind of temperatures, you know, the average basically per month is kind of what we do. You know, so you can see that it's truly it's equipment driven, but it's also weather driven. The need obviously is necessitated by what Mother Nature provides. You know, Jack, you mentioned the trash. That's waste hauling. That's trash that's in all of our facilities. We have a contract with the same vendor that basically runs the trash for everywhere in the county.
I was just throwing it out as examples.
Yeah.
I think with, landscape service,
Yeah.
that's kind of weather driven too,
Yeah. We don't do a whole lot there. We do our pots that are out here that took a beating this year by the bugs again.
Which ones? Bugs?
Japanese beetles, yeah, they
Yeah,
just,
me too.
just chew everything, unfortunately.
Any other questions for Dana? Thank you, sir. Go back to our agenda.
Got
Chair's report, I have nothing. Next meeting will be October 2nd, Tuesday. Same time, same place. And in other business, I need a motion to leave the semi-annual review of closed session minutes closed. Moved by Mr. Rosales, second. By Mr. Rector. Any discussion? I think Ashley handed out all this to everybody. If no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. No items for the consent agenda, so I will call this meeting adjourned.